what's going on, guys? Mystique here. Today we are going to be seeing Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I'm going to give you my thoughts after this movie. I'm really excited. This is like my second most anticipated movie, I'll be honest. And this is honestly pretty cool because, first Spider-Man movie in like, 4 or 5 years? So the anticipation is definitely up there, but not as much as Avengers Doomsday, I'll say. I also will be honest, I haven't like consumed a lot of Spider-Man media between the 4 and 5 years because since the mutants and the Fantastic Four have returned to the MCU, that's been like my main focus. But like, you know me, I'm like a pretty big nerd, so I'm pretty caught up with all the Spider-Man lore. I did watch the Tobey movies when they'd come back to Netflix every once in a while. But yeah. But also, I don't have a Spider-Man themed shirt this time around. I used to have one, but I lost it or something, or maybe outgrew it. Not too sure. I'll see you guys after the movie. Alright guys, I am back from the theater. Now let's discuss Spider-Man Brand New Day. We're first going to discuss what I really like about this movie, because this movie is definitely a top tier Spider-Man movie. A 100 out of 10, maybe movie of the year. I'm not too sure yet. And it's definitely up there with Spider-Man 2 in comparison to good Spider-Man movies. What I really like about this movie is certainly the pacing, because in the high school trilogy, you really had to wait a while for the plot to kick in or the pacing to pick up. In this movie, it's almost spontaneous. Literally before the first hour is completed, you get the plot and the motion starts picking up. I would say in the first 30 minutes or so, you get Spider-Man after he's done narrating. You got him chasing the tank and all that stuff. Because I feel like now we're at the time where movie directors are sometimes having a hard time keeping the audience's attention span. And Destin Daniel Cretton is definitely the director who knows what people want, I'll be honest. Now I'm going to discuss what I didn't like about this movie. This movie is so close to the movie I wrote in my head, like what I imagined it to be. It's almost perfect. Very, very good. Very perfect. It's up there. It's almost perfection. But I'll be honest, I did not like that the Punisher and Spider-Man had met off screen before this movie even began, because that's not what happens in the comic books. In the comic books, the Punisher is hired to kill Peter Parker and all that, and they have a formal introduction, but not in this movie. And I feel like there was definitely a need for an on-screen introduction, because the last time we saw these characters, they were in totally different places. Frank Castle began being the Punisher again, and obviously we saw Peter Parker taking the final swing in Spider-Man No Way Home. Another thing I don't like about this movie is definitely the Hulk, how they handle the Hulk. A lot of people are saying that the Punisher was completely useless in this movie. I would disagree with that, because he did serve a lot to the plot. And the Hulk, they made him seem like a big deal in the trailers, but I don't know, it didn't really feel that way for sure. The Hulk, like, because in the trailers really make you think that the Hulk and Spider-Man are going to work together to find out what's wrong with the mutation, with the whole lab sequence where Spider-Man is being scanned, but he's just being scanned for damage to enter the damage control building. Like, when Peter gets Bruce's help, it's like very quickly. It happens in like, what, 10-15 minutes. They come to a conclusion about what they should do, instead of having like a full-on conversation. Because I feel like in any other movie, they would have had a longer conversation. And I just found it very, very lazy that Jean Grey was mind controlling the Hulk, because we already saw that happen before in Avengers Age of Ultron, that the Hulk was being mind controlled. So I kind of wish they did something differently, because aside from that, Jean Grey has a very similar character arc and characteristics to Wanda, because she also had the whole city under her control, just like how Wanda did with Westview. And I really did not like the whole Hulk versus Spider-Man thing, because it was very reminiscent of Captain America versus Red Hulk in Captain America Brand New Day. The only difference, though, is that this time around the Hulk did not get defeated by a speech, which was definitely the weaker part of Captain America Brave New World. So I'm glad they didn't go with that approach. And I'll be honest, it does suck that we did not see the Grey Hulk in this movie, because all the promotions and the artwork and all the toys led us to believe that the Hulk would become the Grey Hulk, but rather, in the final film, he kept his green skin. So that's what I have in terms of complaints. Okay, guys, I forgot to mention two things that are extremely disappointing in this movie. For one, Peter Parker does not become the man spider. In case you guys don't know, in the cartoon, there comes a time similar to this movie where Peter's arachnid DNA becomes out of control, and Peter becomes more arachnid rather than human, and he grows 8 arms, and then eventually becomes like a whole like human spider type of thing. It's pretty nuts. And there were rumors, because of what the trailers were showing us, that process was going to happen in this movie, because in the cartoon it also happened that at first Peter got the dark eyes, but in this movie they just keep it at that, the dark eyes and the organic webbing, and the other side, you could say, of Peter's powers taking over and becoming out of control. There was this other rumor that supposedly Sony had a private screening of this movie to private audiences, and they thought it would be too much of a scary element to include in this movie, and it would alienate families that are taking their small children to see this movie. That's what I heard. I'm not too entirely sure if it's true or not. But let's just jump on to the other thing, and that is that Peter's new suit was destroyed. How is that possible that in since literally the high school trilogy, every suit Peter has had got destroyed? It's very disappointing. I wonder if he's just going to remake this one again in Spider-Man 5, or if we see him in anything else before that, what suit he'll have. And it's just, yeah, really disappointing. I really like the design on this one. I actually main this suit in Spider-Man 2, the game, not the movie. So it was pretty depressing to see this suit go. What a shame, for sure. It was pretty funny in the hospital when Peter is leaving and Punisher puts on the mask and pretends to be Spider-Man to let the people know that he's okay. But yeah, this, honestly, the MCU Spider-Man cannot catch a break with losing suits. That's all I have. Now let's discuss Sadie Sink's character, which to no one's surprise, she was Jean Grey. This was probably the worst kept secret ever, compared to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield being in the last one. It just was more obvious this time around than the last. Her story is very interesting, I'll be honest. Because up until this movie, I did not know that Jean Grey had a sister named Sarah Grey who also had a similar power set. So, it was nice to know that I could still be educated on Marvel lore after so many years of being a fan. At first, I was a bit disappointed because I did not see Jean Grey use her telepathic powers. Only the mind control. And that particular scene is when she drags Bill Metzger to the chair. I must have not been paying attention in the theaters, and I only saw that happening like after the movie. But it's whatever, Still a cool character, still a cool aspect, and the very unique twist of making Jean Grey the villain, because as we know, she's typically a member of the X-Men and a good guy. Not this time around. Sadie Sink did amazing in this performance. Hopefully we see more of her. And yeah, that's all I got for her. Oh, I definitely want to talk about Yelena being in this movie and talking about big potatoes and small potatoes. Because, let's be honest, Spider-Man, besides this, has some pretty big potato moments under his belt compared to Yelena. Spider-Man fought Thanos, a Sinister Six formed by the multiverse, which is some pretty hardcore stuff, or well, in this case, big potato stuff. I low-key thought at first that her inclusion was unnecessary, but she's just trying to serve a Nick Fury role, like we saw in the previous saga. That's for sure. And I would say currently where we are at in the MCU, that obviously was the best choice for a character to guide Peter. Alright. Now let's talk about Ned and MJ. A lot of people said, oh, I don't want to see Ned and MJ in this movie before the movie came out, or And after they're like, oh, it was so unnecessary to have them in this movie. I would disagree with them, because obviously Ned and MJ are in this movie because they're already done with college, and obviously they're going to return to NYC, and Peter will obviously want to interact with them because it's been a while and he had been keeping tabs on both of them throughout their college years. And so now that they're back, he's going to take the opportunity to talk to them face to face and see what he can do to get them to be his friends again. Ned was definitely the comedic aspect of this movie, with the whole trying to figure out who Spider-Man is. And his two conclusions were Flash Thompson and Mr. Harrington. I could get Flash, but not Mr. Harrington, because he's a middle-aged man, and I don't think he can do all the flips and web sling like Spider-Man does. So that one does not make any sense. And I'm pretty sure in the high school trilogy, there was a moment where Mr. Harrington and Ned were hiding from like the bad guy or something. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. MJ, honestly, the whole thing with her character in this movie was very interesting, because the movie really leads you to think that she actually might remember Peter, because she's like, obviously we know she's like a very smart and clever girl, and that she tried to figure it out once again who Spider-Man was because of all the experiences they had together in high school, but she just cannot remember Peter. And yeah, it really got to me where MJ and Spider-Man were at the rooftop, and and MJ, under Jean Grey's control, is talking about all the great moments they had, and it really had me fooled for a second. And then I remembered, oh wait, that's all Jean Grey's doing. And I'll be honest, before the movie came out, there was a theory that when the Sentry had the Void take over for him, and he put all of New York under a depressing episode, people were theorizing maybe MJ is in town and she's there when that episode happens, and she also falls under depression, and then somehow she gains her memory back about Peter. But then we see that not be the case due to Jean Grey, which is very unfortunate. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention about Ned. I definitely did like the inclusion of Ned when he was trying to guess who Spider-Man was, and that guy's picture that he included that said not him. I like how that picture was Tom Holland's actual brother, who had a cameo in the last movie, but that was cut. And it's just like a fun little callback, and probably a reference to that they look just a little alike. Oh yeah, and I like the whole joke that Ned thinks that Spider-Man might be British due to the Night Monkey and Spider-Man actually being in Europe, and obviously Tom Holland actually being British. Nice, funny Easter egg to include. Overall, this movie has more depth, has more character, has more character than the high school trilogy. I'm not going to get over that in this video. So that should definitely be the move going forward in the adult trilogy. Oh, let's talk about the product placement. I found it absurd because I thought it was way too much. But, it makes sense because in the real world, we did see um, a lot of promotion through these products, such as Little Caesars and Takis. Oh yeah, Aunt May. Aunt May is something I wanted to talk to you guys about. There are rumors for years that this will be the first Spider-Man movie without Aunt May in it. And I really thought they were going to pull that off until the first scene of where Jean Grey goes into Spider-Man's head. We do see we do see Marissa Tomei, so she's still in the movie. Instead of going that route of her not being in this movie at all, just a simple flashback multiple times. Great inclusion, I would say. Surprised that didn't get out. Oh yeah, Bill Metzger is also a very deceiving character, just like Jean Grey, because he really makes Spider-Man believe that Jean Grey found out about Sarah through his mind while he was under the mind control. And, eventually we find that out to be not the case. We found out that's not the case, leading and that leads to the final act, because before that, when Spider-Man was hanging out with Ned and MJ in the apartment, I thought the movie was almost over, but no, there was definitely more that needed to be done in this movie. That's for sure. And yeah, I don't know how Peter trusted a government official like Bill Metzger, because damage control in the comics tends to hide a lot of dirty secrets between the heroes and the villains. Oh yeah, um, the montage scene I feel like is a little deceiving, because in the trailer, just like with the Hulk, it really makes you think that it's gonna happen a lot during the movie, or it's gonna be a big part of the movie, when it's just like very short. And yeah. Oh yeah, Spider-Man jumps alone when he's fighting the Hand, and some people thought other characters were edited out of that scene when that wasn't the case. And it almost led me to think that the prison scene against Spider-Man versus the Hand would not be in the movie altogether. But I was glad that was in the movie, because that was like a pretty cool scene to see. Destin Daniel Cretton is for sure a genius on the whole action sequences. And this movie, I would say, is the third in a row for good MCU movies post Endgame. Thunderbolts was good. Fantastic Four was good, and now this one, Marvel's back on track, and I really hope Avengers Doomsday is going to be a good movie. And I know it will be, because this one was just phenomenal. So, for everyone that says that the MCU is dead, it is not. It is clearly not. They've just, had a fluke throughout the last few years. And now it really seems like they're overcoming it, because, like we heard, Wonder Man was also very good and directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. So we just need to continue having some hope for the MCU going forward and see where things are going to go, and really pay attention to these movies and realize that these movies aren't just good guy versus bad guy. There's a whole story behind it. and really enjoy these movies for what they are. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this episode, and I'll see you guys next time. I haven't decided what I'll be reviewing next. I forgot to mention, I also got the Punisher skin in Fortnite, so let's take a look at that.